Hello, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Simply Saturday, where I get to show you a card that is fast and easy to make. My name is Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. Today's card is a square card, and we haven't made a square card in a long time, so I'm excited to show you this simple card design. We are going to be using some Stampin' Blends. We're going to be using some designer series paper. I am using the 2024 to 2026 in color packet of paper, and we are focusing on the color Petunia Pop. And I'm using the stamp set and dies from Attention Shoppers. Now I'll show you as we go along that if you don't have the dies, that's totally fine. You can still create the card if you only have the stamps. All right. So let me tell you about our pieces here. I have a piece of Petunia Pop cardstock that is 8.5 by 4 1/4, and then I have it scored and folded in the middle at 4 1/4. So there's our square. Then I have a square of white cardstock that is 4 inches by 4 inches. This is simply going to be our panel for the inside. All right, I have 2 pieces of the designer series paper. Each of these is 2 inches by 4 inches, and you can decide on which pattern you want. At the end of the video, I will show you 2 other cards in different color schemes and with different patterns. So you'll get to see a variety of this look, this same card, but looking a little bit different. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, oh, and then I have a scrap. I have a scrap of white cardstock. We're going to do our stamping and either fussy cutting or, in my case, the die cutting. Okay? So let's begin with our 2 pieces of designer series paper. And I'm going to attach those to the front of the card. This card today is going to open this way. You could certainly make it go this way like a book. All right, so you can decide which paper you want to go where. And I think that I am going to go with, I think I'm going to switch these. I'm going to put this pattern on the left, this pattern on the right, and that way when I show you all 3 cards, they will vary a little bit. Okay, so just some multi-purpose liquid glue on the back of my designer series paper. And I'm looking at my borders, having them somewhat, now I did do a dry fit. I didn't show you, I didn't do it while I was on camera, but I did kind of do a dry fit to see where these need to sit so that they look good on the base. I'm going to slide this one to the left a little bit, which is always nice and something you can do because we're using liquid glue. If I had used my Stampin' Seal, there'd be no sliding that paper over a fraction. All right, and a little bit here on the second piece. All right, there we go. We've got our designer series paper in place. Now, what you're going to need is a small rectangle of a scrap of cardstock. I went ahead and used the Nested Essentials dies and cut out a rectangle instead of fussy cutting. Okay, so here is a die that I used, but you could cut out a rectangle that is about, let's see, this is 2 1/8 by just over 1.5, a little hair over 1.5 inches. So if you're just cutting a rectangle, that will be a good size. Otherwise, you can use your die to create your rounded rectangle. This is going to get my word stamp, and using the Petunia Pop ink pad and the Just For You stamp, we'll get that into place, and then we can set that aside. Okay, there's that. Now, that's actually all the stamping I'm doing with colored ink. I'm going to come in with my Memento Black and a scrap of cardstock. And for this card, I'm using the little gift bag, the package. and also the cake. And then on the two other cards, I used different images so you can see how those look. I love the wine bottle. I love the plant. There's a bouquet of flowers. There's so many cute little images in here. All right, so we've got our cake and gift bag. This is where I'm going to use my Stampin' Blends to do a little bit of coloring. And so on the tissue paper, what I decided this time is to go ahead and use the Petunia Pop. And I'm starting with light. And I'm going to color, in my mind, that we're using two different tissue papers, okay? So I'm going to color one of my tissue papers in this Petunia Pop color. This is a brand new Stampin' Blend, and boy, is it nice. All right, so I'm laying down that color, and then I'm going to also do this piece of tissue paper. And then as I set out to do this look, at first I was thinking that I would do pink to coordinate with it, but I'll show you what I did instead. Okay, now I'm just taking the dark Petunia Pop and I'm just gonna kind of outline some of these areas, give it some shading. And if you're not comfortable with like how to color or where to color, light and dark and all that, just experiment a little. There's really no rules. You can just play with it. Okay, then instead of coloring the other tissue paper, the second color, in pink, I decided to just do polka dots. So this is Bubble Bath, this is dark, and all I'm doing is I'm making white tissue paper with pink polka dots. So I'm just putting dots on here, and I don't know how well you can see it on camera. I'm gonna hold it up a little bit closer, but it's adorable. I've got some shadows too because I am stamping in the evening, which, as if you're a loyal watcher, you know I don't record many of my videos in the evening. My sunlight that comes in is just really nice, so I usually record during the day. Now, I want this to be a white gift bag, but I think it looks ignored. I think it looks unfinished. So I'm just gonna take Smoky Slate Light, and then watch what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna barely go down this edge and across the bottom. I'm going to come down one of these two lines. I feel like going down both of them would be too much, so I'm just going to go down one. Then I'm going to come across the top of the bag. So basically I'm outlining the bag. Then I also feel like we need to put a little shadow where the handle meets the bag. So I'm just going to go there and there, and then one little line right here. And I'll tell you what it does. You still totally see a white gift bag, but now it looks finished. It's just got a little color in the shading, and that's what it needed. Okay, so that is done, and now let's do the cake. So this time I'll use the Bubble Bath Light to color this part of the icing on both layers, the top layer and the bottom layer of the cake. And then I'll use my light Petunia Pop and color this part. If you love baking or you love eating baked goods, I can just imagine this cake in real life, and this would be gorgeous, smooth fondant. All right, so I've got those two sections. Then I want to come back with the dark Petunia Pop, just put a little bit of shading in. So I'm going to come on the side here. I'm going to come right across the bottom. It's very, very subtle. Very subtle. And then I'm also going to do the same thing on this layer. I want to be careful that I don't get any in that white area. So I'm making sure I stay above that layer cake line right there. All right, that just added a little bit of dimension. And then, even though it's white frosting, I'm going to do the same trick with my gray. And I'm just going to barely, I mean, as close to the edge as I can, just kind of swoop on those little swirls. And then also I'm going to come up here like so. I think it's such a fun trick. Sometimes I will get this effect using Pool Party, where you really don't want any color, but you don't want it to look ignored, and that works too, but I liked the gray on this. Okay, and then I was really tempted to not color the candles because frankly, I didn't want to add yellow, but I felt like they did need to be colored. So I am using Daffodil Delight in the dark because I didn't want it too pale. And I think this is going to work just fine. So let's color in those flames. Like I said, I didn't really want to add yellow, but it's necessary. You got to have lit candles. Okay, at that point, if you have the dies, you're going to put your dies on here and run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. If you do not have the dies, you can just take your scissors and quickly fussy cut those out. It would not take you very long to do that. All right, so I went ahead and saved some time and cut those out ahead of time. So there's our images, and now we can put our card together. All right, let's bring the base back in. We've got our words. I've got my cute colored and cut images. Look at how cute. Oh my goodness. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an embellishment right here, basically in the center. So I want to pull this down here to the right third of the card. And I kind of want to keep these up here in the left corner because we're going to put our embellishment or our little ribbon or trim right here just to kind of pull it all together. All right, so let's glue these down. All right, I want this one kind of at an angle, but not hanging off the edge of the card. And then this one, is going to go up here. Same thing. I want it pretty high, but not hanging off the edge of the card. And then for this, let's go ahead and use some dimensionals and pop that up. So like I said, I made a couple other versions of this card. 6 mini dimensionals works really well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Otherwise, I think 4 large dimensionals is enough. And I'm kind of not putting them right in the corner, just so that I don't, if I put them in the corners, then I would feel like I needed one in the middle. If I pull them in a little bit, I can get away with not having that 5th one in the middle. So I'm just saving myself 1 dimensional by doing it that way. Okay, let's get this placed. All right, this is going to go, again, I want it to go down and to the right enough because I am going to put my ribbon treatment right there. All right, that is on. So on the other 2 cards, I used 2 different trims. So let me show you what I'm doing on this one. This is just a piece of the Bubble Bath ribbon. It's got a silver edge on it. And honestly, I think this is brand new since Bubble Bath is new, so this must still be available. Sometimes my ribbon and trims last a long time, and so sometimes I reach for something that's retired. All right, all I'm going to do is tie a simple knot in this because I don't want my little ribbon treatment here to be too fussy, and I can see that I want my knot going the other way. Now, the reason I said that is the ribbon itself has kind of a shiny side and a flat side. And the way that I just did it, I would have more flat showing. So I need to do it the other way. Let's see. I didn't think about it, so let me see if I'm reversing it or if I'm doing the exact same thing. That's what I want. Okay, so I have the shiny side up when I make my knot. That way I get that flat area of the knot. That's where my glue dot is going to go. But these are the shiny side of the ribbon. Okay, does that make sense? All right, let's grab a glue dot and put that into place. I think one will hold it just fine. You could always stick two on there if you're worried about it going somewhere. Okay, this is going to go right there. I think the bubble bath looks really pretty with the Petunia Pop. Doesn't that look nice? Okay, and then I'm just going to trim this a little bit at an angle, like so. All right, I think the last thing that this needs is perhaps a couple of rhinestones. So let's do that. Maybe even one. You could maybe get by with just one here. I'm kind of in a mood, so let's put 3 on. All right, I will do one here. And then the second one is going to go, I think what I'll do, I kind of did this on one of the other cards, so it's giving me a little bit of inspiration. It's a little different. Okay, I'm going to put one here, and then my third one over here. I'm kind of creating a triangle. Can you see that with my rhinestones? And so I'll use that corner of the bag. And there we have it. Let's put our inside in place, and then I'll show you the other 2 cards. All right, when I first started out wanting to share this card with you, I was going to do Shy Shamrock. So I do have one in Shy Shamrock to show you. Wow, that's a lot of SH sounds. Okay, that's in place. And of course, you could stamp something in here, which might be really cute. And I might go back later and do that, but I'm not going to take the time to do it right now. And let me show you. Okay, here's our completed card. This one is in the Petunia Pop. And then let me bring in the Shy Shamrock. So this one, I used the same print designs. I just flip-flopped them. So here's the Shy Shamrock with the wine bottles and the little house plant. So cute. In this case, I used some linen thread doubled and made a bow. And then some of those little speckled dots. I forget what they're called right now. I wanted to pick up this kind of crumb cake color and that natural color. So I just added those, and same thing, white on the inside. And then let's look at one more. This one is with Pretty in Pink papers, and I chose 2 different patterns, the stripe and the floral, which I think are super cute as well. This time, instead of Just For You, I stamped Happy Birthday 3 times on my little rectangle and chose the package and the flowers. Here's a good example of where I used a very, very light edge of Pool Party around my white bag, just to make it look finished. So there you have 3 different looks. You have Pretty in Pink, Shy Shamrock, and our Petunia Pop. Thanks so much for watching. I always love hearing your comments and your questions, so please keep those coming. If you haven't ever subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get a notice every time I put up a new video. I'll put some information for you below this video in that little description box. And until next time, happy stamping.